The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Insight Pitch with Skip Lockwood. I'm Ralph Tycho of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and here is the man himself, the avid golfer, who had an accomplishment today that is incredible. I'll have him talk to you about it. Mr. Skip Lockwood.
Well, it was like a miracle today. I'm playing with the guys I always play with. All of a sudden, the putts start going in. I started hitting the fairways that I never hit. The iron shots were going close to the greens, and I shot my age, which is 71 on a par 72 golf course. I am thrilled. This is the first time I've ever done it. I never thought I would do it, and big day in northwestern Florida for me.
Did it make you think, not as if being in essence, a two-sport world-class athlete, a position player and a pitcher that reaches the major leagues is simply that. Did you ever think that today, look back and say, what if I picked up a golf club at age 7 or 5 like Tiger Woods did? What if this was the game I pursued? Did that go through your mind?
No, golf has always been a sport for me. It wasn't a game that I played. You put a couple dollars down on the green and ask me to make a putt, and I'll gag it. You know, it's not. This is a special kind of person that can play golf, you know, and travel and play in the golf courses. So much competition, you know, Monday through Sunday, almost every week. I think it takes a special kind of person to be, notwithstanding how good they are and how well they play. You know, if you go and watch any PGA events, it's a different orbit. It's like watching high school baseball versus watching the pros.
Right.
They're different. The ball sounds different. They play. It's an entirely different game. I never thought I'd become a pro golfer.
Okay. Well, you've done good for yourself anyway without golf. Put it that way.
It was fun today.
Yeah, and that is the name of the game, fun, which we kind of prove on this network. We have folks who get to speak their minds a little bit about life, about what their passion is, and look back, and it's always fun to look back with selective memory. That always helps. You remember the good times. What you described, though, about the golfers, you know, they're playing against the best, they're on the road all the time, high pressure day to day. You put down a buck, and at the end, when the game's on the line, you'd yak. But that has to be not true, because I'm describing the life you led as a major league closer. I don't see why it would be any different pressure-wise than, as a matter of fact, it would be much more intense pressure-wise being a closer in the ninth inning. Well, you can't say much more. The same thing, the same type of pressure, and you withstood it. Was there ever a time you went out there and didn't have your stuff, and didn't have your intensity, didn't have your groove, and you knew it, and you pitched through it?
Well, yeah, I can remember countless times. The joke in baseball is that in golf you have to play your foul balls. In baseball you don't. You can play gives you a new one.
That's
I think
a very good point.
Most players go to the ballpark with a sense of anxiety. and not knowing day in and day out whether it's going to be a good day or a great day. It's a fickle game, baseball is, and sometimes the wind can blow the wrong way, or the feeling just doesn't feel right in the fingertips, or the bat, it doesn't feel right today. There's a lot of things you have to overcome. It's not how good you can play. I never thought that a baseball player at their best has to worry about, an excellent all-star kind of game. It's how badly you can play. When you go out to pitch, can I get through 5 or 6 innings without my good stuff? Can I pitch around batters? Can I throw some change-ups? Can I get my breaking ball over? How do I get to the 6th inning without, without complete failure out here? That happened to me countless numbers of times. And the feeling is always a gamer. You got to grind it out. Even though you don't have the good stuff, you still have to put one foot in front of the other. You still have to throw strikes.
Now, when you don't have your stuff, you have to become crafty, I'm sure. Just rely on either off speed or change the grip, change your position on the grip. So you find yourself fiddling with it right in the middle of competition. It's not like you're in the driving range, as it were, fiddling with your stroke. Do pitching coaches, you had Rube Walker, am I correct? Was he still there?
I did. I had a wonderful pitching coach, Rube Walker. I sure did.
How would he help you in an in-game situation?
Great question. It's the opposite of what you think. Usually, a pitcher will, when they go out to the mound and they haven't got their, great stuff, it's not overpowering. The guys are hitting fastballs that you should be getting by them, and the breaking ball's not too sharp today, and they're making contact with that. The tendency is to try too hard. The tendency is to pull back and grit your teeth and try harder. You can imagine what this does. It's like a basketball player trying to shoot a hard foul shot. It doesn't work out that way. The best players play with loose muscles, with a loose attitude, with the muscles are free and they can react. And you loosen the tightness in your shoulders and in your arm. And what Rube would say to me, he would always come out to the mound and he'll say, "You're not breathing. I want you to breathe. You're holding your breath out here. Get a big thing of air into your lungs and blow it out and relax. You are the pitcher we want to have out on the mound. You're the guy that we want to have here right now. Relax. Be yourself. Don't try to be Superman. Just be yourself. That's all we want." And that was great wisdom for me.
So he talked to you about your head more than your physical prowess, as it were, your throwing, about how your head felt first.
I think most of the time our pitching coach will...
As a question.
Yeah. Thank you. I think most of the time other pitchers will help pitchers with mechanics and come up with ideas about how to hold it, how to grip it, how to throw it, and how to prepare. Rarely does a pitching coach get involved in the mechanics, excuse me, unless there's a big problem. Usually what they'll talk about is your preparation, how you're approaching the game, how to get the most out of what you're going to do. A lot of getting ready to pitch is feeling good about yourself. In my book, I talk about getting into a zone, into a pitching mode. So when you get to the ballpark, you've already played the movie of how you're going to pitch today. And I think a pitching coach is at their best when they can help you, put yourself in the moment, tell you what it's really going to be like, and help you get the most out of your body, out of your mind when you're pitching.
Okay, were there any coaches in the minors coming up that helped you with your mechanics more than your head?
Well, Leo Mazzoni and I played together in Tucson. Leo went on to be the pitching coach for Atlanta for a long time.
Right. May someday be in the Hall of Fame based on that run.
Why wouldn't he be in the Hall of Fame? I mean, with a career that he had, I think he got 15 or 16 World Series rings. I don't know, a lot. Just a great teammate and a great pitching coach. Well, that a guy like that, a small little left-handed thrower, is not going to make big changes to the pitching staff. You're not going to go in there and have everybody throw the way you did or try to throw like somebody else. The pitching coach gets the most out of that player, getting the most out of his ability today, trying to help them, beat the odds today, get them out today with the stuff you're taking out to the mound. So, yeah, I think there was a lot of players, pitching coach. Wes Stock with Milwaukee was my pitching coach, and he was very good with mechanics and always helpful. But it always seems to me
spent a lot of time in the A's organization, did Wes Stock. He was long-term pitching guru in the minors, probably after your Milwaukee days with him.
The guys like that would watch you pitch, and they knew you very well. They knew how hard I would try to do everything hard. If I was going to mow the lawn, I would mow the lawn. I'd try so hard. I had to relax. I had to loosen up, and I had to take a deep breath and to chill out and not to get myself in a frantic kind of position. If you make one bad pitch and you try too hard, you're going to make another one. You're going to hang that curveball without being able to snap it, because you need to have loose muscles to be able to do that.
That's where your head comes in too. That's almost the two work hand in hand. You have to be reminded to keep loose, and when you do, you fall back into your groove.
A lot of times players will have a go-to saying, or they'll have something in their hand that reminds them to relax. Tom Seaver used to play blackjack with the clubhouse guy in between innings down in the runway. And for Tom, when he got to the dugout, he was off duty. He was not going to try to get anybody out. He was off duty. It was red light. And he'd go down and he'd get in the tunnel down there, and he'd be playing blackjack. He'd be, or gin rummy or something like that with one of the clubhouse guys down there. And then last out was made. He put his hat to get his glove, put his hat on and get his glove, go out, green light, time to go back to work. So instead of trying to stay tense and focused all that time, Tom had the ability to throw a switch. I'm off duty right now, or I'm on duty right now. That's a big ability for somebody in a position like Tom Seaver.
Dale Carnegie, the late great Dale Carnegie, had this expression of day-tight compartments. And no matter what one has to do in life, whatever's going on around them, they still have to do their job. And he suggested just that, get in a tight little compartment where you're there and your mind is on nothing else, and but completing your task, whatever it is. And it's mental discipline. And some have it, some don't. Can you name me someone with incredibly great talent outside of yourself who had the physical abilities and never could get the mental part down?
Yeah, I remember a couple players in the minor leagues that I thought were excellent minor league players. One guy that was my catcher in AAA, his name was Charlie Sands. Charlie was a big, burly guy, big smile on his face every day he came to the ballpark. He was a good receiver, hit with power, great attitude, had all the tools that you needed to be a great and successful long-term big league ball player. And for some reason, Charlie never got a chance to display it. He'd get to spring training and he'd be assigned to the minor leagues, or he'd be in a AAA game and not hit well, or get called to the big league practice and not have a good game. It was circumstantial, I think, for Charlie. And I know that there's been athletes who, because of the way they were treated in organizations, didn't get a chance to stick around long enough to be a really good player, good pitcher, or make any money. I mean, some players were pretty good players and never stuck around long enough to make any big money. So, I mean, one begets the other. But Charlie Sands comes to mind only because I knew him. He was my catcher. When I went back to the Mets, from AAA, he was just so excited and so thrilled and so happy for me to get a chance to go back to the leagues. He's a good guy.
That is really nice. Wow. Were there any teammates, you don't even have to name them, coming up that you just didn't get along with, or didn't get along with you, or just you didn't see eye to eye with? You had to see him maybe repeatedly in single A, double A. Somebody really rub you the wrong way? And then I'm going to ask you another question, if there was someone like that.
I was a grinder. I was like a junkyard dog. I wanted to go out there and play. What I didn't like were the players that took the uniform for granted, that weren't ready when they were asked to go in and play, that hit a pop-up and didn't run to first base, pitchers who, man on second base, give up a base hit and sulk on top of the pitcher's mound instead of hustling behind home plate to back up home plate. The game that the players watch when they watch the game today is not who hits and who pitches well and who plays. It's the behind the scenes hustle. Does the catcher run to first base behind the runner when the ball's hit the shortstop? How fast, how committed is that catcher getting down to first base? They used to give us a suit of clothes. How many times
do you really see somebody bust ass going down there anymore?
They used to give us a suit of clothes, Ralph. If you could touch second base before the pop-up came down, the guy that hit that pop-up will get a suit of clothes. It was a standing thing in the minor leagues. But I saw a lot of guys just jake it. They would not play the game hard. I always wanted a guy to, like Rusty Staub, I wanted you to pull up your socks. I wanted you to button up the uniform. I wanted you to wear the insignia square on their head so it wasn't off kilter, off center. I just thought that the way you approach the game, the way you dress, is contagious throughout the team. If you've got guys on the team that have not civility but have pride in themselves every day they go to the ballpark, I think the team absorbs that, and it becomes something that the team tries to do as well.
Yeah. Speaking of preparation and what have you, and there are guys that prepare and there are guys that really prepare. There's this new Japanese pitcher / DH, Ohadi is his name, tearing up the league. And he prepares for a game in the same exact way every time he pitches. I mean, from the time he gets up in the morning, it's all habitual. He may brush his teeth the same way, this, that, and the other thing, but I'm not exaggerating in that. And is that the kind of discipline on some level that you need, the repetition of things to get you ready? Did you have a routine that way?
You're asking me if I was superstitious a little bit, and if I had my favorite socks and my favorite T-shirt to wear, and the answer was I was very stitious. I wasn't superstitious.
You're working your way up to it. And there's aspicious, aspiring, aspicious.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing things and it's working out for you, man, there's no reason to make a change. Wade Boggs ate chicken every day, or at least he said he did. I don't know.
As do I. Now, can I play third? Probably no. But I call myself around the dinner table the Wade Boggs of old mandom. I love chicken, and any way it's prepared. But I will eat other things. I don't think Wade Boggs ate, from what I read, ate anything else but chicken.
If you can hit the ball to all fields, and you get
anything you want.
So you eat anything you want.
We'll have the clubhouse guy fix it up for you. You tell us what you want.
I know you want to talk about something tonight, and I want to talk about it with you.
Yes, I do. I want your transition.
What happens when you get the baseball uniform up?
Yeah, that every player knows it's coming. There's an expression that a baseball player dies twice. Once when his career is over, and once when he dies at the end, whenever that is. Did you take it that seriously, or I'm sure you were prepared, given that you went from playing to Columbia University. You must have some idea that this was impending, that retirement was going to come, and you must have been prepared.
The idea of not being in a baseball uniform always scared me. I never thought about the day that I couldn't play. I prepared myself in case I wasn't able to continue to play as long as I wanted. I did so because I wanted to have a second professional career. I didn't want to go from being in the big leagues to driving cab. Not that there's anything wrong with driving cab, but I wanted to have a second professional career. It scared me to think that I wasn't going to get a chance to be prepared when I left baseball. So I went to school. I prepared myself with degrees and everything. But I want to tell you the truth, Ralph. When it happened, the day it happened, I felt like I was falling out of a moving airplane. I felt ungrounded. I didn't know where I was going. I had definitely suffered a loss. I didn't know really where it came from. I knew I had lost something important. I couldn't put my finger on it. And it took me years to be able to come to grips with what that day meant, who I had become. In the course of an hour, you go to the ballpark, your bag is packed in the locker room. The locker room guy says, Skipper wants to see you, which is the name for the manager. And you know exactly what's coming down the pike. You know, you're going to get your walking papers, your pink slip. Something sticks in your throat. It's a horrible feeling. I wasn't ready for it, and it surprised me. And years later, that day still surprised me. I still would go back and revisit it like an old record, and it still would surprise me. Even though I had my degrees, I had something to do, there's still this sense of loss. As you know, the locker room in a big league locker room opens from the inside. Once you're on the outside, you can't get back in. There's no way to get back in that room unless you're invited back in. I felt a tremendous sense of loss. Financially, I didn't make any more paychecks. Socially, I was a different person in my community. And psychologically, I felt differently. I felt a lot differently about who I was and what I was worth and about the things that made me happy and didn't make me happy. I had to find a new life. I had to find a new way of walking down the street. It was all different.
A new way of competing and a different competition. I think you competed with yourself for excellence in school and be the best Skip Lockwood ever. How much of that came from your experience competing on the ball field?
I think it did come. I think it's hard to say what would have happened if I hadn't played baseball. I was always very competitive. I'm still very competitive. I like to have a few dollars on the line. I like to play competitive sports. If you look back at all kinds of baseball players and football players and basketball players, well, they don't do so well. That after their careers end, there's a very large percentage of basketball, football players, and baseball's not exempt from this either, but a large percentage of these players go bankrupt. And a large percentage of them can't hang on to their marriage. But just think of it. So you're a stud baseball player, and you've got a trophy wife and smart kids, and all of a sudden you're not that baseball player anymore, and you're married to a woman that you may not know very well because you were always on the road. You were always gone. And you may have to do the dishes now. You may have to go to the store and do the shopping or to get the laundry done. These are all different things. We don't, being
kind of a glass cathedral existence back then, and being just a regular old guy is something you weren't since the day you signed a professional contract.
Well, even before then. I mean, if I look back at Little League and high school and my early minor leagues, and I was always placed on a pedestal. And sure, it was nice being there. And I have a sister that's 8 years younger than I am. You ask her, what's it like not to be on the pedestal? Because I was on the pedestal. There was only one pedestal in my house. I was on it. And she got to be second fiddle, all these years. And she's a wonderful woman. She's a great gal, very successful in her own right. But even in a family situation, it's very difficult when somebody gets knocked off the bandwagon. You don't know what to do.
Did you have people in your family that were particularly supportive? Not your wife, for instance. I don't know if she was. I'm sure she was. But members of your family, cousins or what have you, that understood what you were going through, or were you the Lone Ranger?
I think my mother. My mother's still alive at 102. And she's doing very well. We're going back for her.
But you call me when she shoots 100, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't think that's going to But
Okay, well,
just to follow up,
you didn't think you'd shoot 71, right?
yeah, that's true. I didn't know
All
it
right.
this morning when I got up.
All
But
right.
she was
Get
a
her out
Rockette.
there. Get her out there. Tell her it takes a little discipline.
She was one of the original Rockettes in New York City.
Really?
As I think I've told you this before.
No, you haven't.
Discipline from dancing and back in the 50s when she was dancing with the Rockettes. I think that that these women didn't have the greatest life. There was multiple shows every day, and they lived in like a dormitory situation. So she knew as much as anybody, what the road life was going to be like, and how the threats to you and the temptations and all the things that get in the way. She knew what that was going to be like, and she's still. So my book is dedicated to her, as you know, and what it says is it's dedicated to my mother, who let me go follow my dreams, just like she went to follow her dreams at a very young age. I think it was
what a
my
beautiful dedication.
It really helped me out.
Nice. I want to clarify for those out there that don't know what the Rockettes were. She reached the top of her pinnacle as a dancer. There was and still is an iconic entertainment center called Radio City Music Hall, and the first run movies would come through there. Before any history before my time growing up in the 50s, you may have to fill me in on. But the way it is, as I remember, Radio City would get whatever great movie was out in New York, first and foremost, came to Radio City. And before the movie started, they had a live performance. They had maybe 15 or 20 women, all tall, stately, long-legged, beautiful women, beautifully shaped women, and they had a dance routine that was, again, this is New York, top of the hill, and they entertained. I didn't realize that they were on the road. I learned something. I thought that if you're a Rockette, it's a reasonably stable gig. You're home. You live in New York. Maybe walk, take a cab to work twice a day, 3 times a day if they have shows, matinees, and what have you. But they had road companies too, I am assuming.
Yes, they did. And they didn't make any money. I mean, my mother sent all the money she made back to, to her mother at home. So they were really eating bologna sandwiches. My mother was a very wise woman, very patient, very introverted. One of the kind of people that can see into your soul, what's going on.
Right.
And she was the she made the soup. She was the person behind the scenes that brought the glue, brought the family together. And she would be able to unravel what was going on in very simple words and in a very simple way. She would say, "How you doing?"
Do you remember what she said in the context of what we're talking about with your toughest moment, perhaps, one of your toughest moments in life, the transition from professional athlete to just Johnny Lunch Bucket, if you will, and I say that with I'm a Johnny Lunch Bucket. Anything she said in particular, or just knowing that she understood, was that enough for you?
Now, this is a very deep and meaningful conversation we're having. Thank you. It's bringing back a lot of memories for me. My mother was a
Thank you for opening person. Up, by the way.
I think it's good. I'm gonna call her immediately when we're off air. She said to me, I'm sure you've heard these words before, but they came from my mother. She said, never give up. And the second thing she would say is, you can only be the best you can be. So those were the two things that she would always say to me. Don't give up, but you can only be as good as you are. You can't be as good as someone else. You can only be as good as you are. And when I had to leave baseball and I had to turn in the uniform, we had supper together. I came home. I didn't know what to do. And she said those words again to me, don't give up. This is not the end of the line for you. This is a change. There'll be other things for you to do. You'll find something else that gives you joy. Don't give up.
Well, basic but great words, and just hearing them from the person that you love the most, that sort of thing, that's kind of nice.
It was
What's
great.
her first name? Let's honor her. And what was her maiden name?
Gorman was her maiden name, Florence Lillian Gorman. And she danced under the name Rosebud with the Rockettes. I guess everybody had
Rosebud
like
from
a
the
nickname.
Sleigh. I wonder if that name was chosen from that movie. I can't think of the name of the movie now. Remember the Sleigh had a name on it, Rosebud?
You got me there.
All right, I'll have it for you next week. I'll do my homework. See what happened. Skip, this has been wonderful. Thank you very, very much for an excellent show, and getting to know you has been a privilege.
Well, thank you. I enjoy talking, and brings back memories that I didn't know were there. So it means a lot to me, too.
That's a great compliment for me because I'm enjoying this, and I think we have a wonderful rapport.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Skip Lockwood. The show is Insight Pitch, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Ralph Tycho. I'm the weak link of the whole thing. So we got to speak to Skip today, and I'm delighted. If you're listening out there, do me a big solid. Round up some lightly used children's books and take them to the Head Start program in whatever community you may live. Kids need those books. They need to read. They need to become school ready. They need to get their noses out of the devices and the computers, and they need to develop imagination that only reading can do. So if you'll do that, I'll appreciate it. If you don't do that, I won't know. So in any event, if you're listening again, please come back next week. Let us know how you feel on Facebook. We are, if you look for us on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Skip, you have a site on Facebook, too, called Insight Pitch, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. I do.
All right.
Thanks to you.
So I hope listeners will go to that. Talk to us. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, and ask Skip the questions that you wish I would have asked. And if you'll personal message me questions that you'd like me to ask Skip, I will gladly do that on our next show. So thank you again, and adios, everybody. Be well, Skip.
Thank you.
And congratulations, shooting 71, his age. That's terrific. Glow in it, my friend. Be well.
Thank you. Good night.
All right. Adios, everybody.